Mr. Swarup, good morning. Always a pleasure to chat with you.
Good morning.
Okay, Mr. Swarup, day one and again, solid bids coming in for both Bhaskarapara as well as Marki Mangli. Has that really set the tone, you would say, once again? What is the expectation for the remainder of the exercise?
I have been often emphasizing this point that our job has primarily been to put the processes in place. Indeed, they are in place. The first day of the third round has been encouraging. But as I keep saying, we'll have to see on day basis on how it works out. We are pretty happy with the way the process has happened. As far as the final bids are concerned, the amounts are concerned, we don't have any control over them. It depends on the demand and supply. So the numbers are before you.
Mr. Swarup, good morning. Nikunj Dalmia also joining in. Mr. Swarup, what has changed in between the first auction and the third auction is the global outlook for commodity prices. Do you think that could have a sentimental rub-off on coal auction realizations?
As I keep saying that there are factors beyond one's control. The international factors are not in our control. As I keep repeating that we are focused on the processes, we put them in place. Obviously, the ultimate outcome or the ultimate value that gets determined will be determined by factors beyond our control. It probably went off pretty well yesterday. It may not go as well in future, or it may go even better. It will all depend on demand and supply and the international situation. You are absolutely correct that the international prices of coal have come down. Another important factor that has happened in the past few months after we had the previous round of auction is the phenomenal growth of coal production in Coal India. That obviously will also impact, because I think people will start believing that more and more coal will become available from Coal India, and that obviously may impact ultimate price of the coal blocks that we auction.
Okay, one more factor, Mr. Swarup, which is, may not be entirely in your control. And while you identified the blocks to the power players, but the ongoing litigation at various courts has maybe to an extent played dampener. I don't know if you agree with me or not. But do you think that this is derailing the envisioned momentum for the auction process?
We continue to do what we have to do.
Sure.
As you absolutely correctly put, these are factors beyond our control. If they are happening, they are happening. We can't do much about it. This is a democracy where people can, and on occasions they do go to the court, and we have to abide by the orders of the court. We can't do much about it, but we are trying to do things about which we can do something about.
Give us an update, Mr. Swarup, on fuel linkage auction process. Where has that discussion reached, and by when can we expect a final methodology to come out?
If you would recall that we had put the document on the portal, we've got a lot of comments on the document that was put on the portal. We are now examining those comments that have come. And probably by 30th of September, we should be able to come out with a clear policy as to how we will take the linkage policy forward.
To ask you a very simple question, and this is just for the benefit of our viewers. When will be that turning point for Indian economy when our dependence on import will start coming down because of the coal auction and because of the good work your government is doing?
The coal import, I am told, has already started coming down. The informal feedback that I have is that in the month of July, they have come down substantially, and we would believe that they will continue to come down. And it is primarily being determined by the increase of coal production by Coal India. As I mentioned earlier, it's been unprecedented. The Coal India first quarter growth is about 12.3%, which has not happened ever in the past. And this growth is over and above the phenomenal growth last year, which was an addition of 32 million tons, which was more than the cumulative growth of the previous 4 years. So Coal India seems to be doing very well, and that is impacting the availability of coal within the country. And our belief is that the quality of coal that is available in India should not be imported. It's ironical that we sit on 300 billion tons of coal, and yet we keep importing coal. Last year, as you know, we imported 200 million tons of coal. So this has to come down, and I think all efforts are underway to do that. So far, the going has been good, and I am hopeful that in future also we should continue that way.
Coal India has made a dramatic comeback, and my compliments, because I'm sure that is under your guidance and what your what your department is doing. So that brings me to my larger point, which is that there is talk of a 10% stake sale in Coal India. Does it make logical sense now that Coal India has rediscovered its mojo?
See, this is a decision that we don't take. It is a decision that is taken by the Ministry of Finance, and I think you should ask this question of the Ministry of Finance. Our job is to do our job, which hopefully we'll continue to do. The rest of the decisions are taken by somebody else. They will have to take this decision. They have to take this call whether or not to invest at this point in time.
I think the time is right, Mr. Swarup, for a 10% stake sale in Coal India?
Frankly speaking, I have not given it a thought. We are too focused on the production itself. As I said, this is a decision that has to be taken by somebody else, and they will take a decision as per their judgment.
But you reckon 550 million tons of output is easily achievable this year?
It won't be very easy, but we should be able to achieve that. These tasks are not very easy. They may appear easy because they are happening. Yeah. Because what we are looking at more than 56 million tons more than last year, which will be almost doubling the increase.
Well, that's true. Okay, the other thing is, I want you, Mr. Swarup, to wear your sector leader hat and tell me this. I know a lot of factors are beyond your control as well, but the few mines offered in the current round of auctions did not receive enough bids. Now, what do you think is the reason? Is it because there is imported coal? Is it because the linkage is not being close enough? Or is it just the fact that my colleague Nikunj just highlighted earlier, that because the commodity landscape is changing a bit, people are just a bit wary of putting in more money? What do you think is the reason for this?
My guess is there could be a number of factors determining lack of interest in 4 coal blocks that were put on offer. But contrasted to that, there's one block which was auctioned yesterday, was not picked up earlier when there was a demand. So it keeps changing depending on how the situation is. Today, the coal situation appears to be comfortable, both internationally and domestically. That may have been one of the factors. Another factor could have been the distance from the mines that you have. The third factor could be the other mines that could be in offer in future, because we are looking at another round of auctions very soon.
Okay, but I'm just wondering, whatever little conversations that you may be having with the corporate sector, I'm just asking you whether they are indicating a bullishness in the demand for the mines, or are they also being a bit wary right now? Just wanted to understand, because you would have a ringside view of sorts.
It would be wrong of me to make a generalization. The mines, each mine is a very complex thing. So for each mine there is a whole lot of factors that are considered before probably they are taking a decision, and correctly so. They can't blindly jump into it. Look at what happened in the past few years when everyone was blindly going in for whatever that was becoming available. I'm so glad that they're looking into it. They're going into the details and then bidding.
So, Mr. Swarup, when do we see the next round of coal blocks being auctioned, and would it be to the private power sector?
The next round should commence any day, as I said, maybe week, 10 days. We may announce the next round of auctions. We are ready with another set of mines, and as soon as this round gets over, probably we'll consider announcing the next round. But the next round will also be for the non-regulated sector, for the simple reason that this sector has been, they haven't had as much of a chance to bid. So we are very conscious of that fact that steel industry, cement industry, these are industries that require a lot of support, and that is why we are focusing at this point in time on the non-regulated sector.
And when's the next round of auction for the power sector?
We are awaiting certain decisions of the court. Certain aspects have been challenged in the court of law. We are awaiting their outcome, and once that happens, we will go for that auction as well.
I think the power sector or the private companies are unlikely to participate in a gusto, especially given the kind of economic problem they are in. For steel companies, the problem is the cycle is not with them. For power companies, the problem is that state electricity board are not paying them. So if the basic buyer is not paying up, I don't think they will go all out to really secure coal or raw material.
Perhaps that could be one of the aspects that will have to be looked into before we finally decide upon the auctions for the regulated sector.
Does that mean that the reserve price and the basic bidding mechanism could be different for the power stroke steel sector?
See, for the steel sector, the bidding mechanism has been the same. Steel sector falls in the unregulated part of it, and the auctions that we had yesterday were in the unregulated sector, and future auction, immediately what we are going to announce now would also be in the unregulated sector. For the power sector, we haven't really thought about the process that we will put in place. As I said, we are awaiting a final decision of the High Court in terms of the certain aspects that it is looking into. Once we get to know about the final decision, we will see what changes, if any, are required for the regulated sector.
Sir, I'm going to change the scope of the conversation and really talk about the infrastructure. I distinctly remember last time when we interacted with you on this forum, you said that the coal ministry, the railway ministry, everyone is on the same page, and they are looking at investing seriously in the infrastructure sector. What is the update on that? Last time you gave us some numbers, but has any on-ground action really picked up?
Indeed, it has. If you look at the three major railway projects, one each in Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Odisha, all are moving pretty fast. And the good news is that one of these projects, the one in Odisha, the Jharsuguda-Barpali railway line, should be ready by July 2016. Earlier we were mentioning the date about December 2017. One line will be ready by July 2016, which is very good news because it will be able to evacuate more than 30 million tons. The other two lines in Chhattisgarh and in Jharkhand should also be ready by December 2017. This will add an additional capacity of about 200 million tons of coal to be evacuated from these areas. So whereas on the one hand we are working very hard to increase coal production from these areas, we are also working along with railways, which have been extremely cooperative in terms of fast tracking these railway projects. Apart from them, what has happened, joint ventures, as I had mentioned earlier, are being registered both in Odisha and in Jharkhand to take forward more than 60 projects. These are apart from the 3 projects that I mentioned, because this evacuation is extremely critical, and that is why these joint ventures are being set up to carry out these projects. Railway has been extremely cooperative. We've already placed orders with the railways for 34 rakes, and they are going ahead with the purchase of these rakes, again in the context of faster evacuation of coal from these regions.
We've extended our appointment with you, so I'm going to just seek for some closing comments. And again, this goes back to the larger issue that why has Coal India suffered so much in the past? I mean, it's well known that Coal India has the highest coal reserve in the world. But why has that company suffered, and why is Coal India making a comeback, and what will you do to ensure that the comeback is here to stay and Coal India will be able to increase production on an ongoing basis?
Okay, let me not dig into the past and let me tell you what we are attempting to do. Some of it is already visible. You know, the planning now is a very detailed one. When we spoke about 1 billion tons, it was not top-down approach. 1 billion ton was based on the detailed analysis done mine-wise. And for each mine, we had tried to determine what it takes to take a mine from level X to level Y. And if it does, then what sort of land acquisition is required? Are there any environment clearance required? Is there any human resource, additional human resource? Any technological upgradation is required? So on and so forth. So each aspect of each mine has been worked out at length, and we have devised a clear-cut strategy in each of these aspects to move ahead. The increase in production that you've seen in the past few months is as a consequence of the implementation of these plans. I would also like to point out that though we are looking at 1 billion ton, so far we've been able to identify mines wherein the production level will reach 908 million tons. So it's work in progress. You know, I read it in the newspaper and I was very surprised that the target for Coal India has been brought down from 1 billion ton to 908 million tons. I was really surprised because we are being very frank about it. So far we worked out the details of these 908 million tons. This does not mean that we stop there. The work is still on, and probably we will be able to work out the entire 1 billion ton plan. But this is for next 4 years, 5 years. So we don't have the entire plan up front, but whatever we have is a very detailed execution plan on how to make it happen. And if you go by the evidence what has happened in the past few months, we are attempting to make it happen.
Swarup, really appreciate your time. Glad you could join us, and my compliments once again for what your department has achieved. Long way to go, sir, and you're certainly making everyone very proud.
Indeed, a very long way to go. Thank you very much.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.